Welcome to Blackbeard Logic on the Guns and the 701 Network. Let's get it. Leon here with Blackbeard Logic. Get out to my truck this morning, and this is what I was dealing with. Another beautiful morning, turn the key, and yeah, that's blue smoke. Just what I needed. Set me back 2 days. My truck is gargling gravel and coughing up a storm. But I can fix it. Here we go. We don't need that. Do without that. That's probably optional. Moving on to phase 2. Yeah. I probably should have just called Laura Auto Repair. If you got auto issues, call this guy, Doug at Laura Auto Repair. And don't be like me. Seriously, call this guy. Don't be like this guy. Blackbeard Logic.
So tonight on Blackbeard Logic, we discussed the recent news of Senator Magrum's proposal for clemency, the reintroduction of the Medina incident into the news cycle, and what I feel is America's broken social compact. The social compact, as I see it, was never meant to force the just to subsidize the unjust. Full stop. John Adams didn't stutter when he said it. Quote, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate for the government of any other." End quote. That's not a suggestion, folks. That's the operating manual, in my humble opinion. The founders built a limited compact. We hand the government the keys to protect life, liberty, and property, and that's it. Nothing more. Yet here we are watching income tax reach into your paycheck, the paycheck of a moral man, and hand that money over to programs and agendas that a lot of us look at and we're like, that's not right. That's not just. That's not biblical. That's not just bad policy, folks. That's a violation of the original deal. The Constitution was never written to turn the righteous into an ATM for the unrighteous. And this is just my humble opinion on this. To me, that's not limited government. That's a broken compact. Virtue was supposed to be the foundation of legitimate rule, not the crop that the federal government gets to harvest every April 15th. And this broken compact has names and faces attached to it. Scott Faul, Yorie, Kahl have been sitting in federal prison for over 43 years. Clemency for these men are not just overdue, in my humble opinion. It's a test of whether we still believe in a world of what we claim about liberty. Medina, North Dakota, for the background. Federal agents set up a armed roadblock to arrest Gordon Kahl over a tax fight. The people who think they own a monopoly on force and coercion ran into stout American patriots who said no. A firefight erupted. 2 marshals died. Yorie, Kahl, and Scott Faul were convicted of second-degree murder, not first-degree murder, not like Drew Wrigley said, cold-blooded murder, premeditated murder, none of that. Second-degree murder, and they've been locked away ever since. My humble opinion, from a Liberty First, Bible First perspective, is that this is government excess on steroids. The whole thing started with resistance to the income tax, which some people, including me, see as an expansive federal power that is a coercive overreach, in my humble opinion. Turning a non-violent tax dispute into a gunfight in the middle of the street was a choice. The jury itself rejected the idea of premeditated murder. These men have maintained self-defense in a sudden, chaotic exchange for 4 decades. And make no mistake, who fired the first shot is still in contention, still up for debate. 43 years. These are elderly men now, keeping them caged, mainly because they won't bow the knee. They won't recite the scripted apology. They won't renounce the worldview that got them there in the first place. That's not justice. That's ideological re-education with bars on the window. And that, my friends, is not limited government. Punishment has to have an endpoint. After more than 4 decades of lost freedom, the debt, in my humble opinion, is paid. Indefinite federal custody at this point doesn't serve justice. It serves the bureaucracy. It serves their need to never admit it may have gone too far. Clemency isn't soft. Clemency is simply recognizing that a free people do not require lifelong captivity once the measure of retribution has been satisfied. I say release them. Because if the social compact still means anything in this country, it means we do not crush the just under the boot of an unlimited state, whether that boot is the tax code or a prison cell that never opens. That's my 2 cents on the matter. Now let's get on with the show.
People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Life sentences for killing 2 federal agents in a shootout near Medina in 1983 may be brought up in next month's special legislative session. Joe Skrzyewski tells us why a state lawmaker is pushing for clemency for both of them.
Sorry, folks. I had a technical glitch that I had to go and fix real quick. So glad you guys caught the opening. Whew. I had to run all the way downstairs, restart a router, run all the way back upstairs. So there you go. I'm a little out of breath, but that's all right. Okay, so Blackbeard Logic, Guns in the 701, Leon Francis. So the crux of what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk to Bill and Chantel. And as I said in that opening, there has been a reintroduction of the conversation surrounding the Medina incident. And before I bring them in, I'm going to first catch my breath. Got it? And then I want to play this clip.
Life sentences for killing 2 federal agents in a shootout near Medina in 1983 may be brought up in next month's special legislative session. Joe Skrzyewski tells us why a state lawmaker is pushing for clemency for both of them.
More than 4 decades after the infamous Medina shootout, State Senator Jeff Magrum says it's time for the 2 men in federal prison to be considered for clemency.
It's been over 5 full days now since gunfire shattered the early evening quiet in the small central North Dakota community of Medina.
In 1983, Robert Cheshire Jr. and Kenneth Meir with the U.S. Marshal Service were killed while trying to arrest Gordon Kahl in what is now referred to as the Medina shootout. A jury convicted Scott Faul and Gordon's son Yorie Kahl for their roles in that shooting, and the court sentenced them to life in prison with the chance of parole. Gordon was later killed in a shootout in Arkansas. Flash forward 43 years later, Magrum wants legislative management to move forward with a resolution for their clemency. He says Faul reached out to him during the 2024 election because he was one of North Dakota's electors in the off chance he may have access to the president. Faul and Kahl have both been denied parole in recent years. Magrum says he's not taking sides, but notes the men are now being held in custody past their chance for parole.
They've served their time, and they were young men when they did what they did, and so I think everybody deserves a second chance.
Attorney General Drew Wrigley disagrees. North Dakota's top cop saying the effort ignores the brutality of the crimes, adding, "I ask Senator Magrum to reconsider his advocacy on behalf of 2 convicted murderers who still refuse even to acknowledge the wrongfulness of their crimes. Someone has seriously misguided Senator Magrum on this matter, and it is not too late for him to withdraw his resolution." Now, Magrum may face an uphill battle with this, but if legislative management approves this on Monday and it makes it through the special session next month, it would then go to President Donald Trump and our state's congressional delegation. I asked Magrum what he would do if lawmakers reject the resolution or don't take it up at all. He says he's just taking it one step at a time.
Okay, so some semblance of this news story has been circulating in North Dakota media this entire week now. It has become a hot button topic across media, social media, and that's on both sides of the political aisle. That is liberal media like KFGO and the Forum, and they're all wee-weed up about this thing. And even in conservative media, this came from K-Fire TV, which I consider to be, right of center. But I want you to pay attention how all of the media couch this thing. Like Drew Wrigley, Republican. The way he couched it as these boys committed like cold-blooded, premeditated murder. It's a little more than that. And I want to lead off this show by saying what I'm expressing. These are my opinion. These are not Bill and Chantel's opinion, and I'm going to introduce them in a second. These are my opinions. So if you want to point the crazy right-wing, nut job finger at somebody, point it right here. I'll take it. I got broad shoulders. I'm good to go. But from what I from what I see across media platforms, like it to me, all right, this is a recent thing. LaBoy Finicum. Don't know if you watched the video, but if you watched the video, the state's telling of what happened versus what your lying eyes and your lying ears saw and heard happening are like 2 totally different things. But the guys with the monopoly on the media and the bullhorn and the force, in my humble opinion, they write the narrative. And it's up to guys like me to make sure you have an accurate telling of that narrative. In my humble opinion, LaBoy Finicum, the video that I saw, his family was in danger. They're shooting at his car. He gets out. He lifts his shirt. He turns around so they can see he's not armed, and he gets gunned down. That's what I saw. You're not going to find that in the mainstream media, though. And just digging into the bones of this case, and granted, I don't know everything, but what I do know is a little disturbing. And with that being said, I want to introduce Bill and Chantel, and I'm going to have you guys kind of introduce yourselves and give us a little background. Can you guys hear me? Why can I not hear you guys? Give me a second. Okay, so I can see you guys. I can't hear you guys. And I just lost you. That isn't that. It's the gremlins, man. They don't want the truth out there for some reason. This is we're gonna see if we can get that audio up. Okay, I'm gonna try to work on this audio or have them. I think your microphone. It's telling me no devices are available for the microphones. So if you guys can work on that, I'll hear you when you pop back on. But so again, you got Senator Magrum, who I am like over the past couple weeks. Magrum, you know, has really shown himself to be a solid conservative. Like everything from the hold on.
Actually,
I can hear you.
I just went right back to our to my old phone. It worked yesterday. We'll just use my phone.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Yeah, we're having technical difficulties with the newest phone, which, you know, I'm not going to say I'm surprised that much because I've heard things about iPhone 17s that are questionable. So,
yeah,
imagine that, right?
Yep. So you can
make sure we get a charger.
I can.
Oh, I think I got a full charge.
We're good with the charge, so we're good.
I can both see and hear you now, and I also saw R2D2 back there. So you guys are good people.
Like that?
We're the rebel flirt.
We are.
Rebel scum.
Yes, we are.
Yes, sir. So now let's go back. I was saying before your audio and everything came back that Senator Jeff Magrum, who I've known for a while, just in the past couple of weeks, maybe month, has really like cemented himself on my radar when I'm looking at North Dakota conservative representation. From everything from the Kratom fight to this, he gives me hope. Like, dude has a heart. He's got a granite chin. He's got no quit in him. And like for me, being a Southern boy transplanted to North Dakota, you know, that's right up my alley. So hats off to Senator Jeff Magrum for even putting some of the things that I've been invested in the past month on my radar and, you know, kind of getting me into the fight. I was in Bismarck giving testimony written and oral for the whole Kratom fight. And I would never have done that had, you know, I not spoken to Senator Jeff Magrum and a couple of other very conservative state representatives. So with that being said, I want to introduce Bill and Chantel and just kind of let you guys introduce yourselves to the audience and just give us a little background on who you are, what you do, and like your, I guess, your ideological background, if you want to get into that. If not, it's fine.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Leon, for having us as guests. Really delightful to actually find you and kind of a godsend thing. So I appreciate it. My name is Chantel Thomas. Currently, or I should say prior to that, it was, of course, Chantel Faul, my dad being Scott Faul. We live in Wisconsin. We're originally from North Dakota. Grew up, we were both pretty much raised there, went to school there. Decided to Wisconsin because everybody says, well, why are you here? My dad was here. That, you know, was part of the reason. But really the big reason was because there's trees. I like trees. And there's not a lot of those in North Dakota. So thank you. I mean, I love North Dakota, but I liked it. I liked it. It was a beautiful place. And we moved. So what I do, I am actually a pharmacist. I work at home. Love it. I can work in my pajamas. It's pretty amazing. And Bill is, I'll let him speak for himself here in a minute, I guess, but Bill is kind of the jack of all trades. We have a few rental properties. We've got older vehicles. He works on those. He homeschooled our son until he just recently graduated, who's now 18. He's off working. We'll introduce him maybe a little bit later. He's working at a steel manufacturing plant not far from us. But I think that pretty much says it. We live a really low-key life off on a dead-end road, and we love it. So,
yeah, we're ideologically or speaking, we're followers of Christ, and we're not perfect in any manner. We go to church not as often as we should, I'm sure. I guess early in our marriage, we got into the Tea Party movement about the time our son was born. We would say that we are libertarian-minded, I guess, but not a libertarian movement is not a pro-life movement, so
right.
It's difficult to jump on board completely with them. But that's about it. It sums it up. That's us, and we're
Ron Paul libertarians.
Yep. We like to hang out at the house and play video games with our kid. That's kind of our life.
I gotta say, the whole tree thing, I get it. When I moved to North Fargo, I moved to North Fargo because it had the most trees. I
Yeah.
love tree canopies. I like it's my thing. Climbing trees, the 8-year-old, and then when we move out to this farm, there's trees everywhere, and I love it. They kind of let the place go, so we have full shelter belts. I got 2 deer stands and 2 separate shelter belts in the north pasture, and I plan on putting up another one. So there's trees all over. You just but I get it, and I'm happy that. So backstory, I wrote this little piece after seeing some liberal spin on Scott and Yorie and Senator Magrum, where they're kind of dragging him as they are wont to do because I guess they have nothing else better to do with their life than the folks with common sense over the head. But that's neither here nor there. But and so I wrote this little piece and I put it on my social media. I submitted it to the forum, but they didn't publish it, so that was that was no surprise there. But and then Chantel reached out to me and told me thank you, and I thought, and it gets a little more in depth than that, but that's the crux of it, and I felt it was high praise. But Chantel, in your message, you mentioned that 20 years ago, you guys kind of dug into the trial transcripts. Well, first, let's do this. At the end of this interview,
Sure.
What do you guys what do you want to get out to the folks with Magrum's proposal? What do you want to see? Let's start with that.
Ideally, the parole board would do its job and parole them. That's what we've wanted all along. 20 years ago, we looked into the case, and I didn't have any real opinions on it. I had read the book. It's All About Power, but
We were newly married.
And I said, well, I'm going to look into this, and if it looks like he didn't get a fair shake, we'll do something for him. But other than that, I really just kind of want you and him to have kind of a father-daughter relationship, and it's difficult to do when your father's in Oxford prison and you're in North Dakota. But I got looking into it, and right away it was pretty clear that it couldn't have been a fair trial. You've got a Judge Benson and Lynn Crooks that are very familiar with the marshals that were involved in the shootout, and that's your prosecutor and your judge. And later when I found out that I think it was Benson and Crooks that were the ones that got that aim with Leonard Peltier convicted. The only one that was convicted of that.
Same court. Yep.
Same court.
Yep.
So I think the defendants were up against the wall right off the bat without seeing any evidence as to what went on.
Mm-hmm.
But Scott let us have the trial transcripts, and he sent home a lot of the FBI files, the interviews and those types of things. And we read the transcripts, and it became pretty clear that these defendants should not have been tried, in my opinion, together. They should have been tried separately. See, it seems like when you're watching the defense, you've got 3-4 lawyers against the prosecutor. That's not what happens when you're in court being tried together. Each lawyer is looking out for their own defendant. So what Scott really had was he was being prosecuted by the prosecutor, by Lynn Crooks, and then he was being undermined by the other defendants' lawyers because they're acting on the benefit of their their clients. And there wasn't a lot of that going on, but I mean, they did well not to do that, but it was a factor in the case. I mean, things that, anyway, that's the crux of it. I didn't think they got a fair trial right from the get-go. And once I got looking into it, I started finding that things were omitted from the trial that should not have been omitted. And I found that some of the witnesses for the state were not truthful.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that you were on KFGO, and you were gonna. I think you were ready to have just a little bit of a conversation with
He was
Joe.
so excited that he got online so fast, and he actually we were informed about the radio call that Magrum had done and was set up. And there's a woman, wonderful lady her name is Lydia, and she has been just an instrumental part of getting this to happen with Senator Magrum. And she notified all of us kids and said, hey, Magrum's going to be on KFGO. Why don't you tune in? So we're sitting here on this very couch, and he looks at me and he said, should I call in? And I'm not real good at impromptu type thing. And I've been bullied before by them. I mean, I'm being honest. They put you on the spot. They like to get you to cry, and that sort of thing. So I thought, let's do it. I said, Bill, I got your back. And so we went into the other room, and sure enough, it was less than a minute. Yeah. He got through. Man, it was fast. And he didn't say who he was. He said, my name's Bill. And so he gets on, and all of a sudden he says, I'm Bill, Scott Faul, son-in-law. And all of a sudden you could hear the tone change a little.
Well, it was clear that they didn't have many callers.
Yeah, there wasn't many callers.
I guess my assumption was that they were going to take lots of calls. I think that it seemed like that was going to be their format, was to take calls.
Yes.
But once I was on there, I don't know, it felt like they needed to get me off there pretty quickly. And then they had, if they had taken callers after me, I'm sure people would have been, wait a minute, you probably could have tore into that guy a little more than you did. But instead, they just went to long commercial break. And I don't know their format, but they came back with Drew Wrigley's rebuttal to the comments I made.
Well, and while I was waiting to add to that, while I was waiting in this room, because you can't have the reverb, and have both things on. So we went to the other room, and I heard them speaking, and he made it sound like he's like, yeah, Senator, I've got all day. Literally said that's what I took from it, that I've got all the time in the world and blah blah blah, and all of a sudden here Scott Faul's son-in-law gets on, and I thought, that's a wonderful opportunity, you would think.
Yeah.
And then boom, all of a sudden Bill says a wonderful piece, brought up some great points, and Bill, we're up against the wall. We go to this long stop. All of a sudden they're playing music. I mean, I'd never heard such a long thing. I'm like thinking, well, when are they going to come back?
Yeah.
We walk outside, we're listening. All of a sudden we get a message, and it was Drew Wrigley's response. And then all of a sudden they brought in a bunch of people that were guests that were part of either, I think, one of the media sources. Mm-hmm. That already had plans, probably talked about what they were going to discuss, that sort of thing, but there were no more callers. Yeah, Bill was the last one. So
wow, so they shut that down pretty quick. And again, I don't listen to that station at all. Sometimes I wish I did, because it'd be pretty funny. I used to call into those shows like way back when I had a lot more spit and vinegar in me, and I'd call in and I just let go, and then they stopped taking my calls. So it because they didn't know what to do with me. They knew I was a black guy, and they're a liberal station. So at first they were like, "Yeah, this guy's articulate. This guy's a black guy, so he's going to be all over the liberal talking points." And then I'd get in and I open my mouth, and they're like, "Ah, crap." So, but anyway, let's. I'm going to take a step back here. So we kind of went over why you started going over the transcripts. You want to make sure he got a fair shake. You're married to his daughter. You want to kind of understand that relationship, and then and you see these pieces that don't quite fit, and then 4 decades go by. How does that affect? How does that affect your relationship with Chantel, Chantel's relationship with her father, the family dynamic, and things that are too painful? I don't want to get you to cry, Chantel. That's not my shtick. But I just want to get that little piece in there. So I want the folks to understand that there are real people tied to these, explosive stories, and there are real people tied to this whole thing who have been fighting for 4 decades. So, give me a little bit on that, if you could.
Well, I think Scott's frustrated for being in there, and he's frustrated for hitting the walls that he hits. And we had agreed to help him, but his idea of he wanted to go in other directions. He was chasing other straws, I guess, because he's a drowning man, grasping at straws.
Yep.
And then we had our son, and we did have a falling out with the direction that we wanted to go. We felt that we were doing things that were a waste of time. So we've had some strife through the years, and the parole board was getting pretty clear that they weren't going to help him out. He wasn't going to get a retrial.
Let's stick on that for a second. So I heard that little part in the Hyde Camp interview, and
Okay.
I want to dig into that just a little bit. The parole board. Do you think that they're
Are you there,
biased?
Leon?
Yeah, I'm here. Oh no, Gremlins! This is you guys are frozen. So I think. Are you guys back now?
No,
give me a second here. We're having some
I think we're fine. I think we've got weather outside, and we might have just lost you for a minute.
You're connected to Wi-Fi.
Okay. So did you hear the question?
We'll leave the Wi-Fi.
Okay, never mind. Well, let's check it out. Let's try again here. I think we might have just had a little blip, hopefully.
Okay, so what I said before is I heard the conversation you and Joel had, and we were talking about the parole board. Do you believe that that Scott is getting a fair shake when it comes to the parole board?
Well, they listed letters from a letter. Well, they listed the reasoning for not having the paroling him 20 years ago was because law enforcement was against it. And so we went through the things that they considered. They had letters from our family requesting that he get out, telling him that he's got a job and a place to stay. But there was only one letter that was requesting that he stay in. And that came from Drew Wrigley. And they, in their reasoning, they said it's law enforcement that doesn't want them out. So he said, come back in 15 years, basically. And I thought, well, geez, you get to go out for parole every 2 years. Why come back in 15 years?
Right.
But once we got into it, we started looking at what the guidelines are for a parole board to consider. And it listed all the things, you could have letters from the victims' families. But one thing it did not allow, I don't remember if it barred it, but it didn't listed as one of the things to consider in the least, was a letter from Drew Wrigley, a letter from the U.S. Attorney. They could take a letter from the judge, or they could take a letter from the prosecutor, but they weren't. Like I said, I don't remember if they outright barred it or if they just didn't list it as one of the things they would consider. And
but it had to have been someone directly involved, though, right?
Yeah, it had to be somebody directly involved.
Yeah.
Drew Wrigley was not, and that was the basis for their denial at that time.
Yeah.
And I'm just assuming that's the basis for the rest of it also.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be a continuous repetitive nature of law enforcement sending letters, whether they were part of it or not, and the parole board not following, I guess, its own set of rules.
I suppose his next parole board, there'll be all kinds of letters.
Yeah. He'll probably get quite a few.
Yeah, the history of it is that it's been the state's attorney that's telling the parole board not to let him out.
Yep.
But that's not what they were sentenced to. They were sentenced to life with the possibility of parole. And if the prosecutor, or the state's attorney, I should say, is the person that makes that decision, then it's really life. It's not life with the possibility of parole.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about those events in 1983 from your perspective. And then we're going to go hit our first commercial break because I'm way long. I'm looking at it. We're like 40 minutes into this thing, man. So I'll hit that. But I do want to get this piece in here. So in my article, I described the Medina confrontation as an armed roadblock by federal agents that escalated a tax-resistant matter into a deadly firefight. And I noted in that article that the jury rejected first-degree premeditated murder. So from everything that you studied in the transcripts and the records, how do you reconstruct that sequence that day? Who was present? What was the atmosphere? How do you feel about and before you answer that, but how do you feel about who fired first? I want you guys to understand the thing, and this is to the general audience out there. When they're saying premeditated murder, again, I point back to the Lavoy Finicum incident. Those guys were getting shot at when he got out of the car.
Right.
When Gordon was in Arkansas, they surrounded his house, and he saw the sheriff at the same time, and the sheriff shot him in the head. And from what we can understand, media has been so fake that I have no idea what's real or not. But even by their own transcripts, they shot at the same time. And to me, that's not premeditated. That's a guy trying to save his life being shot at. But that's my take. I'm not putting that on you guys. That's Leon, that's Blackbeard Logic's opinion on the matter. But that being said, what are your recollections, your perspective from that incident? 30 seconds, I believe. I think it was less than a minute. How that went down.
Well, I think the defendants were scared of what the government was willing to do to them. I mean, they put Gordon Kahl in jail for a year, and then had another year suspended sentence because he protested taxes. He didn't evade taxes. He protested them.
He didn't owe any.
Yeah, he paid a fine of $5,000. Some people say he didn't owe any. I didn't see his tax returns, but it was a protest. It was a nonviolent protest, and he was, I guess that's what we expect of people that protest. The protesting is not always legal.
Mm-hmm.
But what he wanted is I think he wanted to go to court. Well, he had to have known that he was going to be dragged into court. Yeah. And he wanted to put it in front of a court so a court could have the opportunity to decide against the other branches of the federal government. And I'd heard a story that he had suffered some heart trouble while he was in prison, and his co-defendant did too. I think he died. I don't really remember. I didn't look into it too much, but certainly there was fear of the federal government.
He fell ill anyway. Yeah.
But I don't know that these guys, when they left, they had seen one of the officers, Bradley Kapp, a local police officer who they were familiar with. They seen his pickup parked a ways away, and it seemed to them that they were being observed by him. But I don't know if they believed that there was going to be an arrest.
Right.
Because it was just a local cop, is somebody they knew. They did know that Gordon had this warrant for his parole violation, which was a misdemeanor. But they also knew that they'd had that warrant for, I think, over 2 years.
Yep.
And they hadn't served it. I think they tried to, but they hadn't been successful in finding him or something. Well, I don't understand that. He had a farm in Heaton.
They knew where he was, and
Yeah, he's North Dakota. Yeah.
apparently had coffee every morning at the cafe, and he wasn't hiding. He was just living a normal life.
But previous to that, there was an APB put out on Scott, her father's station wagon, and they knew it was a fraudulent APB because they said it was Rusty Kuba and Gordon Kahl and possibly others armed and dangerous, going around protesting farm foreclosures. But that day,
how long before was that, Bill?
That was like a couple days.
Only a couple days before Medina.
Yeah. Now, this would be why Scott was fearful, because he's got this APB out for him for as being in a vehicle with armed and dangerous people. But the day that APB went out, it was his wife, Shauna, that was in that vehicle with 5 of her kids.
My mom was in that vehicle with 5 kids.
So I think if, Scott said he didn't think that anything was going to happen that day. Having Bradley Kapp looking at that, set off some bells, but and they made arrangements to go in 2 different cars just in case. But he said he didn't really think anything was going to happen. But if something did happen, he was actually worried that they were coming after him. And with an APB like that, that's basically giving every cop in the state the right to shoot on sight, armed and dangerous.
Armed and dangerous. Yeah.
So when he found himself in it wasn't a roadblock, it was an ambush. They were sitting on the road, but they were sitting way north of town. And the vehicle that came up from behind them really took Scott and Yorie and them by surprise. And it wasn't like they had minutes to think about this. It was instant. They had no idea that Ram Charger was coming up from behind. And that's the state of mind they're in. They're like, what is this? We've got an unmarked vehicle. I think it did have a flashing light on it, but it was a red light. It's not like the blue and red that we see now. Anybody could get a red light like that. But you had guys jumping out that didn't have their uniforms on. And according to Scott and the other defendants, they're yelling, "We're going to blow your goddamn heads off," and things
You're
like
all
that.
going to die.
You're all going to die.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if that's true. I think it probably is, but there's no tape recording of that. You have to just.
The reason it's believable is because those guys were all separated after it. Yorie was shot to the ground. He was taken to the clinic, barely survived. My dad and Gordon took off for the night. My dad gave himself in the next day. They didn't have a chance to sit and talk about what happened. But when they all got back together and they questioned, they all said the same thing. We were stopped at this roadblock. These guys screamed at us, "We're going to blow your mother bleeping heads off. You're all going to mother bleep and die." And that's pretty scary.
So that is a vastly different. That is a vastly different telling than what we hear in the mainstream media. Like that is night and day telling. That's not premeditated. That's not cold-blooded.
Right. And just to go back, because I kind of have a squirrel brain, one of the articles, a couple of them that was just released with Magrum and doing this help, there is a specific person that keeps going out into these media outlets and stating that these guys did this in cold blood and it was an unprovoked attack. And I'm thinking to myself, number one, cold blood means you thought about it, you premeditated, and that's first-degree murder.
Well, it was a former U.S. attorney that knows the definition of
and it's a
cold-blooded.
person who is pretty knowledgeable in the law, let's just say.
Yeah.
And then it was unprovoked. Well, I'm not sure how you drive up to a roadblock and be ambushed and then consider that not provoked.
Well, they didn't drive up to a roadblock. They saw it they saw these vehicles in the distance.
Sure.
So they weren't actually having an altercation with what would have been the roadblock. They were having an altercation. The beginning of the altercation was with a vehicle they had no idea.
True. Actually, yeah, you're right. They saw him so far up north that they saw somebody and they decided they were going to pull into an approach and turn around. And I think before they were able to turn around, that Dodge Ram Charger came up behind, squealing to a halt, and these guys jumped out and said what I just said.
Yeah. So the ambush was from behind.
It's from behind. Yeah.
When you hear that it's a roadblock, well, then you get the impression that there is this confrontation in front of you.
Yeah.
But the confrontation came from behind.
Yep.
A jump scare, so to speak.
But regardless, they were stopped. There was no planning. They just wanted to go home.
They were blocked in the middle of turning around.
Yep.
And see, again, when I hear the media spinning it, it makes me think of safe and effective. Everybody's safe and effective. That whole, well, I'm not going to get pulled off of platforms for going down that road. But anyway, and this is why I wanted to interview you guys, because we are inundated. Even some of my friends are like, hey, cold-blooded murder, this. And I'm like, I don't think so. And I have to give them examples like, do you not remember the Branch Davidians, which may not be the best, but Ruby Ridge? Do you like some things in the media and the government? They stink to high heaven, and sometimes it's obvious. And then sometimes when you hear that narrative being preached over and over by all of the media, you tend to go, wait a minute, let me dig into it a little bit. And when I
was a young man when that Waco thing went down, and I remember being in the bar and seeing it up on the TV, and I wasn't too bright as a early 20-year-old, but I was watching it, and it seemed excessive. They said they were going after to protect these 38 children, or there might have been more. But in the end, you have the ATF serving a warrant or whatever it was that they were doing, the ATF on a child welfare call. And then the child welfare call ends up burning up 38 children.
Yeah.
So it's kind of remarkable.
He's made Koresh out to be this evil man, and he probably was. But it really didn't seem like it was a just response. And they just ended up killing children that they said they were going to protect.
And I wonder how many people know that. What propagandists are really good at doing is covering their mistakes by pointing out how bad that guy is over there, yet they killed 38 children.
Right.
In the most gruesome way that you could possibly die. So nobody's talking about that. We're all talking about crazy David Koresh having intercourse with these young women, and like he thought he was Jesus Christ, and you're like, oh my God, that guy is horrible. The government burned up 38 children.
Well, the way I heard it described, what those children went through, and I know this is a Plato emotion, but that they, through the fire and through the tear gas, there was a chemical reaction that caused, I don't remember what the name of the gas was, but it caused the children to have muscle spasms that turned them into a shape of a C backwards. And so that's how they died. They turned backwards, like you are a gymnast. And, I don't know if that's true, but that's the reports that we've heard if you look into it. And I don't know. We're getting off topic a little bit, but
a little bit. It's a little bit off topic, but what I want folks to understand is a lot of times you got to look a little deeper than the popular narrative. And what I heard from Joel, what I saw from Rob Portley, what I saw from other media pundits is they're parroting There's no critical thinking. There's no, hey, let me do some reporting. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great if somebody actually dug through the data? Again, I'll go the Kratom thing. I saw all of these news stories. I saw Armstrong and Wrigley out there with what holding up what they were calling kratom, which was not kratom, and it took me all of maybe an hour of digging to get all the information that I needed, and no medical emergency, no hundreds and thousands of people dying, none of that. Found out what actual kratom was, and found out what these derivatives were, and like the media narrative versus what actually is going on are two totally separate things. And I want the folks, before we go to commercial, to get that, to understand that sometimes you got to use the brain that God gave you to look a little deeper. Again, I've got tons of friends that were at the January 6th thing, and the propaganda that was foisted up on us from that thing should make everybody go, wait a minute.
Well, I like the January 6th thing. It was so over the top that you would have to be the world's stupidest person to believe that the January 6th guys were that evil of a group. I mean, it was, I don't know. They over prosecuted it, basically. Yeah. You had people in jail for years with no trial. They were after grandmothers and people that put their feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Big deal. Now, he probably should have gotten some trouble there. He was provoking the bear. But what that guy went through, I think he got quite a bit of time, did he? I didn't follow it that closely. I wasn't that interested in it, but I did, I didn't look into it, so to speak. But I did. It was in the backdrop of our lives at that point.
It's the propaganda piece that I want. The thing that I take away from all of these instances, and I can just go on and on and on about it. I'm not going to bore everybody, but the thing that I take away is this. If you don't go along to get along, the government can crush you. And not only can they crush you, they can destroy your life, your legacy, your family. The memory of you can be crushed and demonized to a point people are afraid to even talk about it. Like, that's what I've been seeing. People are afraid to talk about J6 because you'd be pulled off all the platforms. People are afraid to talk about Lavoy Finicum. People are afraid to talk about what happened at Ruby Ridge or the Branch Davidians and all of that because it's taboo, because the government and their media lackeys have set it that way. And I don't want this to be that thing. I want, if we're going to have a discussion about 40 some odd years in prison and what I call re-education, and if you don't get re-educated, you ain't going nowhere. If we don't have an honest conversation about that, the government is going to do the government thing. That's what it's going to do. And with that being said, Clay is going to murder me because I'm an hour into this thing. I haven't hit a single commercial. But again, I wanted you guys, I wanted to, despite all of the media hype, show who you guys are. You're like, you could be my neighbor. As a matter of fact, I wish you were my neighbor. We'd have great times, But to humanize these guys and kind of tell the story from their perspective. Like, they're not cold-blooded killers. They're not, Death to America guys. They're not stomping on the flag. They're not none of that. What they are is they're a guy like me. They're a guy like Clay. They're a guy like Jamie and Doug and all of my friends. Just regular guys that look out there, see what's going on, see that it's wrong. Like this pen that I have right here. I've been pro-life my entire life, actually. I kind of like life. I'm glad my mom went that route, like Reagan said, everybody that's pro-abortion, mom was pro-life first, or they wouldn't even be here. So to a guy like me, my tax dollars funding Planned Parenthood to the tune of $500 million a year, that pisses me off. We don't talk about it. We call it reproductive care when they're murdering children. I'm not going to get on that. I'm going to go to commercial so Clay doesn't murder my face. We'll be right back. Leon Francis, Blackbeard Logic, Guns in the 701 Network. We'll be right back right after this break.
Hey, it's Leon Francis from Blackbeard Logic on the Guns in the 701 Network. I'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. Stay tuned.
Lauer Auto Repair, located at 309 South Washington Street in Bismarck, North Dakota. Give them a call at 701-258-6308. The team of mechanics at Lauer Auto can take care of any problem your vehicle is having. And when you do business with Lauer, you can be assured you're doing business with a pro Second Amendment America First repair shop. There are plenty of other auto repair shops in the Bismarck-Mandan area. But why take a chance at patronizing a shop that might not have your beliefs at heart? Make no mistake. Lauer Auto is your pro Second Amendment repair shop. When you talk to the guys at Lauer Auto, don't forget to tell them that you heard they are a sponsor of Guns and the 701 and that you appreciate their support of our pro Second Amendment, pro North Dakota live stream and podcast. That's Lauer Auto Repair, 701-258-6308. 701-258-6308. Located 309 South Washington Street in Bismarck, North Dakota.
I am Leon Francis, and this is Blackbeard Logic on the Guns and the 701 Network. Let's get it.
Leon Francis, Blackbeard Logic, Guns in the 701 Network. Good God. Bill got a whole lot younger and he's got a whole lot more hair. What's going on, man?
Well, he stepped away for a second. So I said, Liam, this is our son, Liam. And I said, why don't we introduce you if Bill doesn't get back in time? And you can say hello.
So,
Hi, I am Scott Faul's grandson. Sitting here while my dad grabs a drink of water. Thought I would say hi.
Hey, Liam, my son has a friend named Liam, and his name is Eli. So it kind of goes together. They're two of the funnest boys you'll ever see. When Liam comes over here, they're shooting 22s and taking down rabbits and pocket gophers and giving their both moms gray hair, and me and Dan, we just sit back and go, "Yep, you look like that type of guy, dude. Like you've given your mom a gray hair or two."
Yeah, he's a good kid. So we thought we'd introduce him, and maybe we'll bring him back later. But Bill got back, so we'll carry on.
Okay, I'm going to get to some of the comments. Lots of us speak out. We just get shadow banned. That's a thing. For a very long time, my following was building up and building up. And as you guys all know, it just fell off a cliff. Especially during COVID, I would talk about certain things. I'd get shadow banned. I'd get hard strikes. That whole thing. That's not freedom of speech. That's not freedom of the press. That's not wanting to get the story out there. That's one side promoting a narrative that you better not get off of. And I've only just now, and I want to thank the folks that are out there. Like on my Facebook, I think we reached 1.5 million interactions last month. And I'm stoked about that because at first it was anemic. Like it was crazy because of the shadow banning. So, and then Twitter and YouTube and all of that. So, and Rumble too. You guys can check out Guns in the 701, Blackbeard Logic. You can check out Clay. You can check out my buddy Jamie. All of those guys across all social media platforms. I think I'm trying to think. Jamie, I think prefers Rumble, but you can go to the Guns in the 701 our webpage, and you can see all of us, all of the videos. Dig through them. I'm trying to get the Spotify thing As it stands right now, it's only allowing me to upload like snippets, so 5 minutes, 5 minutes. But I'm trying to get that dialed in. I just don't have time to deal with it today, though. We're talking about the media spinning of Senator Jeff Magrum's clemency proposal for Scott Faul and Yorie Kahl. As I said before, you've heard the official, in air quotes, narrative for 43 years. I wanted to hear from the actual people who lived it. So we're sitting down now to have this long form interview, and so long, in fact, that I missed like 2 commercial breaks. But Clay's a good guy. He's understanding. But we're having this long form interview with Scott Faul's daughter and his son-in-law, because I heard the interview. Well, not interview, but the 30-second thing with KFGO, and I was not impressed. I'm like, what are we doing here? So I want to back up a little bit, because we kind of already talked about this, but I want to dial this in a little bit more. I think the crux of the entire conversation hinges on, especially when you have Drew Wrigley out there saying, cold-blooded murder and that sort of thing. Scott and Yorie have long maintained that it was self-defense in a sudden, chaotic exchange. And you kind of touched on it, but when we're thinking in that capacity, what Scott and Yorie have pretty much maintained the entire time, is there evidence to back that up?
Is there evidence that it was chaotic?
Like sudden, a self-defense situation? Like I go back to the way you laid out the ambush. They call it a roadblock. I call it an ambush, and I've done so publicly. So it would lend credence to their belief and their testimony, and the thing that they've held on to for 43 years is, in my humble opinion, it seems to me it is exactly the way they portrayed it. Like, they didn't hop out of there like, gangsters with their Thompsons and, die pigs die type deal. No, they were like, holy crap, they're shooting at us.
Well, yeah, I'll mention a man by the name of David Brewer. And that guy was he was in a lead vehicle with Gordon. And his actions during the whole shootout was I think he put his feet on the ground outside the vehicle, and he sat with his hands in his lap and prayed. And he was convicted of 2 felonies. One was conspiracy, and I guess you could make an argument that it was conspiring to help Gordon get away or something because he was a driver. And the other one was what were they? Conspiracy and
aiding.
Oh, aiding and abetting. Or no, it was conspiracy and whatever it is when you harbor a fugitive.
Harboring, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, if Gordon had been walking down the street with this guy and David Brewer was, harboring him as a fugitive, and they just arrested him, they would have arrested Gordon Kahl for a misdemeanor. Okay. And I guess if you would charge David Brewer with something, you would charge him with a misdemeanor harboring a fugitive. But he was charged with felony harboring a fugitive. Yeah. So everything in this thing was trumped up. Okay. So what David Brewer at best could have been guilty of was a misdemeanor conspiracy and a misdemeanor harboring a fugitive, because he was harboring somebody that was in violation of the law of a misdemeanor. Okay. So, but he got felony. He got 10 years for sitting there. So everything in this thing has been trumped up from the beginning.
And he wasn't the only one who was there and did nothing. I mean, Vernon Wagner was also in the trial, and he should have been charged with the exact same thing that David was charged with, except for that he took a plea from the government, and he decided that he would be okay with doing what they asked him.
became a state's witness.
He became a state's witness, and he ended up not getting any time. And then David Brewer got 10 years. They tried to charge Joan, Gordon's wife. She was that day to talk to the lady. I think she was friends with Doc Martin's wife, if I'm correct. There was also
Joan didn't get anything, and if anybody would be harboring a fugitive,
yeah, why wasn't she?
Well, she wasn't convicted. She was charged with that, and the jury found some mercy on her, and they didn't convict her of anything. But she was charged with the murders also.
Yeah, by me saying why wasn't she, I'm meaning it's silly that
it's not consistent.
It's not consistent. Yeah.
Right.
So, and the media, one thing they said is they would describe the defendants as 6 armed gunmen, but no, there was only 3 men who that had weapons. That was Scott and Yorie and Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
But the other 3 were cowering on the floorboards of the vehicle.
Yep.
And then you had 6 officers that were armed. Okay. So, I mean, I'm not saying right or wrong. What I'm saying is the description is wrong. The description is 3 armed gunmen against 6 armed law enforcement. And I mean, I don't know if that changes anything legally, but it certainly changes how a person views the scenario.
And see, that's me. Like, so if I'm pulled over, I'm armed everywhere I go. So that makes me an armed gunman. If someone is shooting at me, like
Scott didn't jump out with his weapon. Scott got out of the vehicle when the ambush occurred, and he testifies that the police officers had their guns out the windows and then jumped out armed. And at that point, Scott back into the vehicle, but he didn't jump out armed.
No.
Now, I don't remember what Yorie and Gordon, I think they did jump out armed. But as far as we're concerned, of course, we're Scott's kin, I guess. And I've never met Yorie. It seems to be a pretty decent guy, but I've never met him. But from our point of view, it's always from Scott's eyes. And he didn't get out with his weapon. And there was a point where he ran away.
Yeah. He ran off a different direction. And then he was kind of cut off by
Wigglesworth.
Wigglesworth was the last name. So he was just basically off in a distance, off in a tree row, while he was hearing the gunshots start. And that was when Yorie was shot, we're pretty sure, right at the beginning. And here you have Yorie laying on the ground, riddled full of bullets. And Gordon, as far as I'm concerned,
he exercised great mercy.
Yeah, he had a lot of self-control because he thought his son was dead. And there were people that walked away from that, police officers that he took the gun from, and they ran. And he did not just flat out get rid of everyone there. He took out his words was that he did what he had to do to stop the confrontation. Yeah, the people that were aiming at him.
So. Let me steel man their case for a little bit. If you can believe that Gordon went around the side of the Ram Charger, and I guess Lynn Crooks calls it a coup d'etat of
Cheshire.
Of Cheshire, yeah. That demonstrates quite a bit of brutality. But right before he did that, I think it was right before, it might have been right after, he dealt with Bradley Capp. And Bradley Capp had actually shot at Gordon. He aimed his gun at Gordon. I don't think Gordon remembers him being shot at, but the evidence that Bradley Capp shot at Gordon was there was a BB in the trailer house, and that would have been right in line with if
the only shotgun that was shot.
The only shotgun that was shot. It would have had to be his gun, and Gordon was standing between that and between Brad and the trailer house. So Gordon dealt with Bradley Capp, and he realized he was out of the fight. He had been wounded, and I don't remember if he took the gun at one point. I think he took the gun away from him.
Bradley just held his gun up and.
Well, Bradley ran to the ditch after confronting Gordon.
Yeah.
But Gordon just passed him by. He just went on. He
didn't stop him.
He didn't.
Wait, that's not cold-blooded murderer stuff right there.
No, right. He also had wounded Hobson.
There was other people there also.
And Hobson was out of the fight. I think he got shot in the buttocks or something. Or I don't remember. It's been 20 years since I went through it. But he had he he displayed some mercy to some other of the so-called victims of the police officers. So I find it difficult to believe that Gordon would have walked around that vehicle and just killed him for the sake of killing him. But if he did, it's Gordon believed that that's the man that shot his son.
Yep.
He believed that was the first shot of the incident. I don't know if that's true. There's a lot of people. There's some reports that people thought the first shot was a pistol. Well, that would have been Yorie. But this is all so fast.
Yeah.
So a person can get confused. But upon recollection, with Scott, he'd written a confession, a brown paper bag confession that was not allowed into court. But he said that he was dealing with Cheshire, and when he got around to that side, he'd realized he was also permanently out of the fight. So I don't believe that it was a coup d'etat. I think that he was being shot at as he's shooting, and then I think he, when he could, he let people go.
See, that is a wildly different scenario than the media narrative that we've been fed. Wildly different. Why do you think that our media so quickly put out this narrative to the contrary? What do you make of that?
Well, I think they probably jumped on a knee-jerk reaction. It shocked them. It was shocking. But if anybody had time to reflect at all, Gordon and Scott don't have anything to offer the media after the fact.
Right.
There's no more stories that the media is going to glean from Gordon and Yorie. But they glean, they develop quite a bit of their income from stories from the police officers, from government. So I think it's connection. I think it's self-interest.
Yeah.
Okay. And whether they recognize that or not, we are all that way. We all kind of lean towards our own self-interests. I'm not making a condemnation of them, but I think that's where the fuel is. I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Again, I was so ignorant. I thought that the news was there as a buttress against, hey, the government is kicking puppies over here, and we need to cover that. The truth, the whole journalism thing. I am Tom Brokaw, type journalism. And I'm not naive. Like, I've come to this realization quite some time ago that if the media is telling me something, I need to dig, because they're not going to. And with that being said, so we're thinking about the root of all of this. And from what I can understand, it was a misdemeanor?
Misdemeanor parole violation.
Okay.
Gordon wasn't too happy with the government. Many reasons, he didn't like the fiat currency and those types of things. And he talked about that a lot. But I also heard that he was not happy with paying for abortions. That I don't think that was his only issue. I think he was interested in economics. I think he was interested in how our country formed. So that kind of tended to be the avenue that he went down. But he, from what I've read that he's written, he was fine with being left alone. He was still going to use his First Amendment right, though. He was still going to tell people and speak out. But yeah, they had a parole violation that they were unable to serve for 2 years, and there were some attempts. But I don't know that Gordon knew there were attempts. And for a misdemeanor from a Texas court, it was a federal warrant, so it was nationwide, but it was from Texas. If he'd been captured on that warrant, statistically speaking, he wouldn't probably have been extradited. I'm not saying it was a minor thing. The government wants their money, and they're going to get their money, and they can't have people telling people not to give the money to the government. So it was a very dangerous thing.
Yeah.
But it was a misdemeanor.
It was a misdemeanor.
Yeah, so is the Costa Nostra. So is the mafia. You don't pay that money, and you start telling the shop owners, hey, we don't have to do this thing. Yeah, the mafia is going to come after you, and that's me saying that. That's not these nice folks saying that. That's Leon Francis, Blackbeard Logic's opinion on the whole government gangster thing. But anyway, so I want to move on to the convictions, the sentences, and the questions of justice. So they're convicted of second-degree murder and related charges, not first degree. So looking back at the trial process, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, what you learned from the transcripts, what stands out to you as unfair or incomplete or ideologically driven?
Well, we actually had the opportunity to interview some of the jurors. One woman in particular, I'm not going to bring her name up just for her sake, I guess. But she, in her mind, she didn't give us this number, but it was apparent with the hours that we spent with her that Scott and point that she thought second-degree murder, would be, like a 20-year sentence.
Here.
I think we lost you.
We're having some technical difficulties.
Yep, technical. Good God, I hate that. But that's the gremlins that we talk about so much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go hit our second break, and hopefully on the other side of that break, they'll be back. So Leon Francis, Blackbeard Logic, Guns in the 701. We'll be right back right after this break.
Okay, let's go.
I am Leon Francis of Blackbeard Logic on the Guns and the 701 Network. Let's get it.
Anvil Brand LLC, raising and training tomorrow's barrel horses right out of Bismarck, North Dakota. Tracy and her family are great American patriots who not only support the Second Amendment, but they also promoted what you're looking for, top quality barrel horses. Go ahead and give Tracy a call at 701-471-6629 and tell them Guns and 701.com sent you. That's Anvil Brand LLC out of Bismarck, North Dakota.
At Horton Laser Craft, we believe in the power of personalization. Whether it's a cherished memory, a special occasion, or a unique gift, our custom laser engraving brings your vision to life. Our expert craftsmen and state-of-the-art technology ensure every piece is a work of art. From personalized decor to one-of-a-kind keepsakes, Horton Lasercraft makes every moment unforgettable. Visit HortonLasercraft.com today and start crafting your perfect gift. For more info, email them at HortonLasercraft@yahoo.com or call them up at 605-545-7535. Horton Lasercraft, where memories are engraved.
T-shirts tucked in, know my worth, can't tell me nothing. White Nikes, albino, pink cop my stilo, head to the top, bottom line is a motto.
Welcome back. It's Leon Francis with Blackbeard Logic on the Guns and the 701 Network. Let's get it.
Welcome back. Leon Francis. I stole that Arnold Schwarzenegger clip from my buddy Jamie. Like when I saw that thing, I just thought it was the most awesome. It looks like I got friends out in northern North Dakota, which is kind of an oxymoron when you think about it. But and when they come back from wherever they're at, the work, the field, whatever, them unloading looks just like Arnold, like just weapons everywhere, just pulling them all out, doing the thing. But anyway, Leon Francis, Blackbeard Logic, Guns in the 701 Network. We're having a conversation with Bill and Chantel. Now, Chantel is Scott Faul's daughter, and Bill is Scott Faul's son-in-law. And I wanted to have this conversation. Well, there are four things I wanted to get out of this conversation. One is what really happened, to the best of their recollection and their knowledge, back in Medina in 1983. Two, why the jury rejected the first-degree murder, and in light of that, why we have our Drew Wrigley. Why we have guys like that out there saying, cold-blooded, premeditated, yada yada yada. I also wanted to discuss the human cost of 43 plus years behind bars. And I wanted to get of their opinion on why they believe that clemency is long overdue. And if we get those points out of this conversation, I'll chalk it up as a W. And a couple of things, just to kind of backtrack a little bit. We all know what accepting the accepted narrative in any story looks like. I mean, we lived through COVID. We lived through the most popular president in recent American history, which is, of course, Joe Biden, who was even more popular than Barack Obama, the first African American president. He 80 million votes. Forget about the Biden bounce, all of that stuff, because the narrative, everybody in media told you that this was the freest, fairest election ever, and you're supposed to believe it. And then we went through COVID and Dr. Fauci and safe and effective and this, that, and the other thing. And then January 6th, we got to break this cycle. We have even conservative commentators on our side of the aisle. They fall into this trap. And I know some of them personally, and they fall into this trap. There's certain topics that are so taboo that you don't even talk about them. This is one of those. It's like Drew Wrigley said, God, I hope he rethinks this thing. It's like we got to have data centers and flock cameras because China, you're not supposed to question it. Don't question it. We've already told you what we need you to know. Don't peek under the curtain. It's Oz back there. The Great Wizard. All that good stuff. Anyway, welcome back, guys. I sometimes I rant. It's a thing. I'm working on it.
You needed the break for your commercial, and it came back quick.
Oh yeah, that was a quick one. I'm trying to get them all in so Clay's not so upset, and I'm also trying to pay some bills because all of our sponsors. That's how I come to the masses. That's how Clay's show is produced. That's how Jamie and all the folks on the Guns in the 701 Network. That's how we get done what we get done. So let's dig back into this. So 43 years. Oh my God, that is an incredibly long time. And digging into the story a little bit, I don't know how sane I would be if like some guys were shooting at me and the guy that they're after has a misdemeanor and I in self-defense I shoot back. I'm not being like, it's not indiscriminate. I'm not doing tactical, what we would call it. Well, I'm not even gonna. I'm gonna go somewhere else with that. Like, you're not doing any of the things that would make you an evil, cold-blooded murderer. Yeah, and you figure, this is America, justice system. They're gonna see. I'm gonna go in here. They're gonna see what this was for what this was, and we're gonna be okay. And then have that system fail. And then 43 years later, it's still failing you. And then when you have your family and friends trying to reach out and give you some measure of a normal life on the other side of something that is this chaotic and is this disrupting, and you see folks like Drew Wrigley and other folks actively, even though I have no doubt Drew Wrigley knows the ins and outs of this case. I have no doubt about that. Yet still, you see him going out of his way to say the things that he said. And then you see the commentators in North Dakota, crazy right-wing extremists, Jeff Magrum. And you're just like, that's gotta weigh on a guy. And that's gotta weigh on a guy's family. And so I wanted to bring Bill and Chantel on so they could tell their side of the story, because nobody, like, again, Bill was on KFGO ready to have the conversation. They couldn't get him out of there fast enough. They're like, oh, he's disrupting the narrative there. So, But again, Scott and Yorie, they're elderly men now. So, what is keeping them locked up? What purpose does that serve, in your humble opinion?
Well, they have to show us who's boss. It's just down to that. An exercise in I can't remember the word now. I used it the other day when we spoke. In humiliation. But the jurors, we spoke with just one quite extensively, and they rejected first-degree murder. Okay, they said it was not cold-blooded. It was not premeditated. And the one that we spoke to really actually 20 years ago thought that Scott should be out by now. Okay, and that's what they expected. But what's happening now is that the U.S. attorneys are rejecting the jurors' decision. Okay, now I disagree with the jurors' decision. I think that they, Scott and them, were acting in self-defense. But I have to live with their decision. And their decision was that life with the possibility of parole. Mm-hmm. And then speaking to the one juror and then we watched some outtakes too from a documentary that was taken out. We got the impression that they believed it'd be, around 20 years. Yep. I'm kind of putting words in their mouth, but that was the impression that we got. And certainly the verdict they had was second degree with the possibility of parole. If there is no possibility of parole, then their verdict is being set aside. It's been ignored.
Wow. So, good God. My article argued that punishment must have an end. And if you watch my intro, I kind of went through that. A free society does not require lifelong captivity once the measure of retribution has been met. Do you think that them not going? We saw this during the January 6th. We saw so many people coming out going, "I'm so sorry, I was wrong," blah blah blah, this and that. They got some measure of leniency out of that. Do you think that the powers that be would look more favorably on clemency or parole if they would do an act of contrition?
Absolutely. Now, what they want them to do is they want them to basically smile and say, thanks for keeping me locked up for 43 years. Yeah. I mean, it seems that, that might seem like kind of an outrageous statement, but that kind of the way I'm taking it, because a normal second degree conviction is 20 years. They've been there for 43. We've allowed their side to be able to use an emotional
argument.
A
plea to emotion, or it's a logical fallacy. A plea to emotion.
Well, a plea to emotion. So they're using emotions, and we've allowed them to do that, even to the point of stating things that are untrue. Somebody on the news, and I'm not going to say his name right now. I don't recall the exact name, but it was just yesterday. I think my husband let me listen, and he said Scott Faul shot 12 shots.
Oh yeah,
shot 12 shots, And it's like, that was just a flat out lie.
Yeah,
it was a lie.
It was a mistruth.
You know, so they're able to say
Conservative or liberal media? I'm going to find out.
I don't. Is there conservative media?
I think actually he was Fargo. It was. I think it might have been through KFGO. We will get back to you on that, but I know that it was said. I listened to it and I looked at it, and I believe it was the individual that you stated earlier. But that's just one example, and they have been doing that since this happened. Whatever they say is the gospel, and we've been indoctrinated as a society to be told, hey, you just do what you're told. As the government tells you what to do, and you just do what you're told. In fact, some churches even tell their Sunday school students, I have a problem with this. The commandment that says honor your father and mother, they will actually go above and beyond and add, and all of those in authority. And I'm like, wait a minute. No. That's not what the commandment actually says. So we've been told this not just from our schools, from all of the institutions, from our own churches. And to question them is like we're committing this grave sin. And we have to think to ourselves, why are we in this boat? And then there's two sets of rules for us as Americans. Some of us have to follow one set, the other doesn't. And how does that work? Any person who would have been out there that day with second degree, any person who would have had a similar charge of second degree would be out. They'd be out if it hadn't involved government affairs. But it's this emotional plea, and we've let it happen. We've let them say whatever they want for this many years. And that's why when I found your article, Leon, I almost had a heart attack. I read it and I'm like,
well, we've let him
couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. I said, Bill, read this. Somebody said something that's true. All of it.
It's difficult to fight an emotional argument because it was a tragedy.
Yeah.
Okay. When you talk about what happened, and if you're having a discussion with somebody, and when you start winning with the facts, when you start coming up with the logical arguments, often what will happen is the person we're talking to or person we're trying to convince will go off into that emotional argument. And how do you combat that? Because it was a tragedy. It is emotional. I can't imagine what their families went through.
Right.
But we can imagine a little bit, because if that could be Scott could have been dead in the ditch.
Well, he's been in prison since I was in diapers, so I haven't exactly had the opportunity to, spend time with my dad. Yeah.
So, I mean, we understand the emotion, but I think people use it as a weapon. I don't think the families do. I haven't had any contact with families, but certainly the media will turn to that. Yeah. And certainly the prosecutor will turn to that. And I think it's unfair that they use that. They should stick to the facts.
Well, it's a double standard. They're able to use it, and that's the problem I have, is that if you can use it, but I can't, how does that work? I'm supposed to stick with the facts, even if I state the facts. They look at me like, well, you don't know that that's true, or they'll throw another curveball at you to try to get you off course, or they'll call you crazy or right-wing conspiracy theorist, and you name it. So. Stating the truth is not upheld by them, and unfortunately that's what I like to do. I like to seek the truth, and as a Christian, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to call good good and evil evil, and I guess that's where I stand.
Well, you made a couple of really good points. Like, I could just listen. So you guys made multiple really good points there. One, there's a reason that we homeschool now. When we were in Fargo, I took my kids out of public school at very young ages because I saw what was going on there. And we sent them to Shanley and Oak Grove. But even in that setting, just like you said, I noticed things that I did not like. And they were still just churning out these little cogs. I did like Shanley because they were so pro-life, and they did the March for Life in Washington, and the whole thing. And I did like Shanley. But that aside, one of the reasons why we decided to homeschool Eli is because I want to raise a boy. I don't think that our schools are doing a great job of that. But I also want him to be a free thinking, critical thinking, capable, self-reliant a man. That's what I'm building here. And far too often I see these glassy-eyed boys who have been overly medicated and taught to be almost effeminate shadows of themselves, so they fit into the mold that the school is trying to churn out. And when we extrapolate that out, what you create in that scenario, what you are creating in that scenario are obedient, subservient serfs that go out there, they hit the time clock to clock in, they hit the time clock to go out. The government mafia gets their pound of flesh, and you go home. And it's long. And I said this today. I forget where, but probably on social media, probably a comment of some sort. But we are way too comfortable with tyranny as long as the tyranny is comfortable. And our founding fathers said the same thing. In our Declaration of Independence, I think it was Thomas Jefferson who made that, and I'm paraphrasing that, but he said, basically, we will endure tyranny as long as it's comfortable and endurable. And what they were saying to the king is, hey, we're done with this. And you got to understand, it was only 3% of those guys that would stand up and say, you know what? And when they did that, they gave 97% of the other folks a free country. And it looks to me like we're regressing, man. Like they'd have been shooting by now. That's all I got to say. They'd have been packing muskets by now.
We still have that 3%, and we see them every once in a while. Most recently, we saw the J6ers. I don't agree with everything they did, but I certainly was, when it was happening, I thought, boy, they better take over the whole government. They're all dead. That was my first thought. But that's our 3%. And I think that our government now is far more powerful than the king ever was.
Oof.
And that's the problem, is that we need 6%.
Right.
Yeah, we need quite a bit more, because they are quite a bit more powerful. And then we're rolling out the backbone, which will be the Orwellian state, the panopticon. But that's another subject. I could be here for 3 hours on that. But
that's the start of Scott's case.
Yeah.
They protested. They wrote letters, and that didn't work. And they contacted their congressman. That didn't work. So they filed protest tax forms. And that just got them thrown in jail. And then when they were just done with it, that got them killed.
Yep.
So looking ahead, what concrete steps, public awareness, political pressure, legal avenues do you believe are the most realistic and effective right now in advancing that case for clemency? How can folks like us, how can folks like me help you?
Oh, well, this is probably one of the best things that has happened, is to have Jeff kind of spark this fire. I mean, he stood alone. Nobody voted for it. He's the only one. Okay. That's what we need. We need the only ones to stand up and just, and the podcasts are circumventing, the
mainstream
bought media.
Yep.
But to be honest, I don't think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. They are too powerful, and now Scott is a bigger target. They couldn't possibly let it happen now.
Yeah.
Cool.
It couldn't possibly. It'd be a loss.
Well, yeah, the only way it's going to happen is if people that have made some pretty bad decisions realize what decisions they've made and then step backwards and undo them, which that's not going to happen. Let's just say that probably isn't going to happen.
One thing that does work
thinking.
is getting people's names on it.
Right.
Drew Wrigley wrote that letter.
Right.
Okay, we've got a couple of U.S. attorneys that have also written
people
letters.
out that
people should just remember those types of things.
Remember those
When
things,
you
yeah.
have a government official that does something wrong, remember it. And if you have if you bring a complaint to a government official, make them sign it that they're not going to do it, that they're not going to help. Okay, let them put their name on it. Because to say, well, I didn't really know anything about that, they're always trying to shirk those types of things. That's the only way to do it, is to make them accountable. And that'll be through petitions to them. It'll be through lawsuits, unfortunately. That seems to be the only way to get anything done. I don't know if you listen to Gavin McInnes. He's kind of he's out there. Well, Gavin McInnes is making headway because he's suing people. He sued the SPLC. He got their leader fired because they slandered him. And that's really the only thing to do, is to make people put their name on their decisions and sue people at slander or whatever. It's unfortunate. I don't like to sue. Never have. Probably will never will. But that's the weapon of choice these days.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes you have to. I had a big fight with and not many people know about it, but I had a big fight with CPS, and because I pulled my kids out of public school, and that apparently wasn't allowed. I was like a glass-eyed unicorn, and a black father who's actually like involved with his kid's academic future. Like, absolutely not. Huge fight, but I was tenacious. And I won. I took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and I beat those guys 5 ways from Sunday. Like, and I'm pretty proud of it. Come at me. But I'm going to hit our last commercial break. Well, no, wait. I want to ask this, and this could get a little emotional. It doesn't. I don't mean to be. And if it is, just say cut to commercial. We're cutting to commercial. Sure. When we're talking about Scott and his mindset, same question I gave to you. How is he holding up? What does he how does he feel about his prospects of getting out and seeing his family, his grandkids, his kids, and all? What's going through his head? Does he have any hope?
No.
I think he's lost it. I think he is extremely depressed. The idea that prison is rehabilitation is a joke. It's just a place to put people when they haven't agreed with you, basically.
Prison has not been good for Scott. In fact,
no.
He was not going to seek parole 20 years ago.
Yep.
We talked him into it. We said, well, we're not going to, there's no point in looking into this case anymore if you're not going to seek parole. And so he agreed to do it. And he's done it since. But that's, everybody has a glimmer of hope. But it's not much of a glimmer for him.
He genuinely still believes in the core element of why Gordon did what he did. And
I do too.
He holds firm to that, and just is basically saying, I'm not going to bend it to their, and they can't tell me that I need to say something when I don't mean it.
Well, can I back up a minute? Go for it. You'd mentioned something about remorse earlier, and they always conflate remorse with acceptance of guilt. Okay, they say, "Oh, he's not given remorse." No, Scott has expressed his remorse. What he hasn't done is he has not denied his innocence.
Right.
So if you require a person to be, in order to be paroled, you have to accept your guilt. Well, then innocent people will always spend more time in prison than guilty people.
Yeah. That is a really good point.
Yeah.
Really good point.
He is remorseful.
He is remorseful, and he said it in front of the parole board, and they stopped him. That's what Bill was saying on the.
They cut him off
media.
and said, "I don't think there's anything you could have done. You were there, and the scenario unfolded, but you were there. You won. They lost. It's not good for you."
Yep.
That was. I paraphrased that, but it's pretty close.
Yep.
That is and again, if something similar happened, the loss of human life is always, I'm a pro-life guy, so the loss of human life. And I get, I used to be a big back to blue guy, and again, once you start digging into things, you kind of go, wait a minute. But anyway, it's always a regrettable thing to lose life. I wish our government would have that same mindset, and you could avoid things like this. Like to me, despite what Portley says, I think it could have been handled in a lot better fashion. I think the loss of life would have been zero had they handled this thing correctly. I think that they screwed up, like they have done. Like again, earlier in the show, I listed 5 examples of them behaving badly, and then pointing to, oh, but this guy was horrible, but this guy was this, that, and the other thing, and we don't even talk about their actions that cause human lives. Like we talked about the Branch Davidians. I'm not going to rehash it, but you think about that loss of life there, and who caused that loss of life? It's
right.
So I get.
Who was Randy Weaver's wife's name? What was her name?
I don't remember.
Vicky. She was shot in the head.
Yep.
What was his son's name? I can't remember. It's like
Sammy.
Yep.
Okay. Randy Weaver has a Wikipedia page. Okay, and I'm sure he didn't put it up, but Vicky is just listed as his spouse.
She wasn't wanted for anything, and she got shot. Yeah.
So they do make mistakes, and they cost people's lives, but nobody suffered for that. I mean, no law enforcement did.
No law enforcement.
But we will suffer when we make a mistake.
Yeah.
Which we should. But it just struck me, and I thought about that today, that I've forgotten what her name was, and whether you liked Randy Weaver or didn't like Randy Weaver, Vicky didn't. She didn't deserve to die, and certainly her 14-year-old son, I think 14.
Yeah.
Sammy didn't.
He was outside and he got shot in the back. Yep.
Hunt squirrels.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hit our last commercial break, and then we're going to wrap the show up. I want you, if there's a message that you want to convey to policymakers, to other families in similar situations, to the folks out here that are listening, I just want you to think about that. If there's a message that you want to convey to the listeners, to policymakers, to Jeff Magrum, to Drew Wrigley, to the media at large, I want to know what that message is. And we will hear that on the other side of this break. Leon Francis, Blackbeard Logic, Guns and the 701. We'll be right back right after this break.
Lauer Auto Repair, located at 309 South Washington Street in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Give them a call at 701-258-6308.
The team of mechanics at Lauer Auto can take care of any problem your vehicle is having. And when you do business with Lauer, you can be assured you're doing business with a pro Second Amendment America First repair shop. There are plenty of other auto repair shops in the Bismarck-Mandan area. But why take a chance at patronizing a shop that might not have your beliefs at heart? Make no mistake. Lauer Auto is your pro Second Amendment repair shop. When you talk to the guys at Lauer Auto, don't forget to tell them that you heard they are a sponsor of Guns and the 701 and that you appreciate their support of our pro Second Amendment, pro North Dakota live stream and podcast. That's Lauer Auto Repair, 701-258-6308.
701-258-6308.
Located 309 South Washington Street in Bismarck, North Dakota.
When you want it done right,
Go where lemons go.
Kalen's Auto Service, owned and operated by Kalen and Misty Foss, lifelong locals with over 25 years experience. From modern rides to classic restorations, they can handle it all. Top quality work, fair price, and honest hometown values. Located just 1 block south of Highway 12 on 6th Avenue West in Lemon, Kalen's Auto Service, serving you with all your auto repair needs.
For the best gun gear for every and any situation, Little Angry Man Arms LLC has you covered. Top-notch guns from top-name brands like Winchester, Glock, Sig Sauer, and Ruger to essential extras from Magpul's, Streamlight, Hollow, Sun Optics, and more. Little Angry Man Arms LLC have everything to make your shooting adventures a success. Visit littleangrymanarms.com today and gear up for your next big hunt, competition, or home defense. Don't miss out on our exclusive deals. Little Angry Man Arms LLC, based in Trail City, South Dakota, your ultimate hunting partner.
At Horton Laser Craft, we believe in the power of personalization. Whether it's a cherished memory, a special occasion, or a unique gift, our custom laser engraving brings your vision to life. Our expert craftsmen and state-of-the-art technology ensure every piece is a work of art. From personalized decor to one-of-a-kind keepsakes, Horton Lasercraft makes every moment unforgettable. Horton Lasercraft is owned and operated by a local veteran and his wife located near Thunderhawk, South Dakota. They provide custom laser products at a reasonable price, and their turnaround time is fast and efficient.
Custom board cutting, glassware, decanter sets, mugs, assorted stainless steel jewelry, assorted tags, decor, custom acrylic nightlights, and much, much more.
Call them up at 605-545-7535. Horton Lasercraft, where memories are engraved.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Leon Francis, Blackbeard Logic, Guns in the 701. I'm speaking with. We're having a conversation with Bill and Chantel. They're Scott Faul's son-in-law and daughter. And one of the biggest stories in North Dakota right now is Senator Jeff Magrum's proposal for clemency for Scott and Yorie. And I guess in closing, two things. Whatever message that you want to get out to the folks, to policymakers, to the media, and you can break those down into subsets if you like, or to other families in similar situations, that sort of thing, or just a broader audience that may be hearing this for the first time, going, "Wait a minute, that's not what I've been hearing. That's not what I understand." The whole Medina thing to be, like these bloodthirsty cutthroats hopping out and swashbuckling and kicking kittens and pushing grannies down. Like none of that didn't sound like any of that to me. So, one, what message would you like to convey to each one of those subsets, or the subset as a whole? And two, what can we do to? I hate thinking about Scott sitting in there with no hope. And
We're
you
going to
just
address that, Leon. We're going to address that first.
Well, this is jogging my memory a lot talking about this now. We haven't really had a chance to talk to people about it over the last 20 years. But the case is very interesting. There's quite a bit of stuff that we could talk about the shootout, about how the case, the trial went on. But unfortunately, after 43 years, it's really not advantageous to Scott to have a retrial. He's already spent the 43 years. A retrial, well, quite possibly could shore up that he'll never get out. But even if he got out, he's got 43. Even if he was exonerated, it's 43 years. But as far as the parole goes, and back to that, we shouldn't need a pardon or whatever. What was it called?
Clemency.
Clemency from the President of the United States to get out from underneath the overreaches of our federal government.
Yeah.
And he was needed for those January 6 guys to get a pardon. And Scott, it seems like he would need that also. We shouldn't need that. We should have a system that works.
We should have guys that are in control that are actually just following the rules, right? A set of rules that we've been given. And If they just did that, that's what we want. We want them just to follow the rules and just to be honest, seek the truth, and do what you're supposed to. Do your job.
Are you talking? Are you referring to like the parole board?
Right.
Pro board, yeah. Well,
parole board.
Unfortunately, it's well, I mean, it is ultimately up to them.
Yeah, it's ultimately up to them. It really is.
Yep. I don't. They have obviously had pressure from government to not let them out.
Should I say, you're right? I'm putting in terms of they should do their job, or other people should step back and step away from it. And that's what we need. We need people just to do the right thing. Finally.
I think it would.
For the first time.
I think that it would take pressure from the ruling authority towards the pro board now to get them out.
Right.
Especially after complaining.
Yeah.
Well, I often talk about the doctrine of the lesser magistrate. I think we kind of touched on it the other night when you and I had a conversation. A lot of times, that's all that's needed. And when you conveyed, we just need the folks to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. That's the way this thing was set up. And I'm going to address it in my closing.
The system relies upon people doing the right thing.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. I bloviate so much. It's just. Is there anything like the folks out there listening can do, like a letter writing campaign, or is there anything that will sway the parole board? You think?
Just bringing more attention to it. I eventually, will there be someone who chooses the right thing? I hope so. That's our hope. We do have hopes that he'll get out. I'm telling you, I mean, I have contact with one of Yorie's daughters, and Yorie's sitting in prison right now. They have taken him down to, I believe, either North or South Carolina, about as far as they possibly could away from her. And he's a very sick man. And why they aren't letting him get out of prison so he at least could be in some comfort. Yeah, it's sick. It's actually
she makes a good point. In the big beautiful bill that was passed, prisoners were supposed to be brought closer to their family.
Closer. Yep.
Okay, and I think that has happened for some, but certainly not for enemies of the state.
Yeah.
Yorie needs to be closer to his daughter. Scott was in Minnesota at Sandstone and Minnesota Security, but they just I don't know why they decided to, but they shipped him off.
Right, and they did it actually right when he was in the middle of trying to file something with the government, and he said, "Wait a minute, I don't want to be moved yet. You can't transfer me because we're not done with this filing." Mm-hmm. That was in Minnesota. Boom, he's shipped off to Michigan. So they just do what they want, and that's what's happened.
If they're not going to let them out, then get them closer to their families.
Right. Yeah. Right, and the least right.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that are affected with similar scenarios, like we've talked about Ruby Ridge and Waco, and you could go on and on. Lavoy Finnegan, which is just an absolute travesty. Yeah. Most of us are more familiar with that, and that brings back the memories of course, Gordon and those sorts of things, because people tend to look back into history then, or what started these ideas. That these people are sitting thinking they're all alone. That there aren't people that are like-minded and that are on their side. But there are a lot of us that are. Yep. And we need to just keep holding our local officials, our state officials accountable to some degree, as much as we can, while we still follow the law.
Yeah.
We can't be breaking it, but we need to say, hey, wait a minute, you guys didn't do this the way you're supposed to.
And we could keep reelecting Jeff.
We need to keep reelecting Jeff.
100%.
Jeff, and to throw his name out there. I mean, everybody's watching this is familiar with him, but what a phenomenal person.
Yeah.
I mean, no skin in the game, personally, but yet he decided, I'm going to stand up for something that I believe is right. Boy, he's got a set of kahunas, that guy.
Yeah.
And
what a concept. A statesman.
Right.
A politician who actually, believes that he's supposed to intercede on behalf. Like, what a my God! Like, where has this concept been?
Right.
You know, and my hats off to Jeff and Donna, salt of the earth people. Like when I first met both of them, they couldn't be more relatable. Couldn't be more relatable. Dude's got cojones of titanium. And but he's like an unassuming guy, but he believes what he believes, and he won't be moved. And that's the message I try to get out to everybody. You don't have to be this big bear of a guy. You don't have to be this big bull of a guy. I mean, I'm bullheaded. Yeah, I get it. You know, the jokes are going to fly. But the fact of the matter is, all you need to do is stand there, hold the position, and say no. Yeah, this is not going to happen. Not on my watch. Uh, and I often use this example, and it's a microcosm. But imagine what a different 3 years we would have had fathers going to their daughters' schools and said, no, we're not having little boys play with our little girls in soccer and in football and volleyball. Yeah, we're not doing this. How many people? Again, I understand it's difficult. And I kind of went into my background with the state of North Dakota and the Fargo school system. I was the guy that stood there and said, no, my kids are smarter than this. No, you will not teach my kids this. No, this is not going to happen. And they tested me, and they found a tenacious father who would not let go. Even when it hurt, you know, I'm like, no, I'm not going to be moved. Your move, you know. Oh, I lost here. We're taking this thing all the way. I will win. I have faith. My faith was strengthened through that test, and I know that a lot of folks, they'll get tested, and they're like, is this really worth the fight? Yes, it's worth the fight. It's worth the fight. And if we want to hold this country some semblance to our like founding document and foundation and what those guys were thinking, our country is going left hard. I don't know if you noticed it. And we got all the pieces. We have Democrat socialists that are getting elected in America. Like the whole Leatherneck, the Marine that you know, his lineage started fighting the Barbary pirates, and now we're electing them to. Okay, all right. I'm gonna take a step back, take a breath. All right. I want to thank you guys for coming on. I'm gonna speak with Senator Magrum and see what I can do, and what we can do. If there's anything, like if there's anything that we can do to help Scott and Yorie, even if it's just getting Yorie and Scott closer to home, even if it's just that, I want to find out what we can do. And I will be in contact with you guys, and I'm sure Jeff will also. Like I cannot tell you how many people emailed me and private messaged me. God, I love what you're doing. I couldn't agree more. You have more support than you think. I'm just gonna say that, and I'm gonna unless there is anything you want to add, I'm gonna leave the folks with one thought.
Nope, I think that was perfect.
I think we touched all bases. We really appreciate you allowing us to do this, giving us opportunity.
He's actually talking, I think.
I'm not talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw you on the other screen. I thought we got muted. No, I think it's perfect to end with that. You know, I didn't think to end that way, to end with the argument that we have they should be closer to their families.
Yeah.
It hasn't been for 43 years. But yeah, I mean, I'm certain. I mean, not certain. I'm pretty sure that might happen now.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they'll cave a little bit.
Yeah, maybe they'll concede a little bit. Ugh.
Yeah, I think a good message to keep getting across, also, if able, Leon, is the fact that many people don't understand that life, the definition of life, isn't life. It isn't always like till you die in prison. Okay, we need to get that message across. We need to educate people. Seriously, educate.
Life means life now.
Right.
when they were convicted,
it
life meant a term of years.
It meant 20 years, right? So where we're sitting here is that there is an undereducation across the board, and we need to try to do that. I think that's a good step. And I think a lot of I'm really impressed with the younger generation now. People can say what they want, but a lot of these young men are becoming more conservative and listening to podcasts, and they have their own opinions. And I'm like, you guys are rocking this. I'm loving it. And I think a lot of people's eyes are being opened, albeit they're still young. You know, we've got so many different generations that are kind of button heads. So we got to try to get past this and hopefully just share more information with each other and do the right thing.
I heard that this generation, like Eli's generation and his little buddies, they're going to be the ones that, because we let a couple of generations slide. I'm just going to be honest.
Right.
We dropped the ball on a couple of generations, and we ended up with pink hair and other things that I'm not quite sure I could say on air, but just the wildest and the most craziest thing where a guy like me looks back and I go, things like this are like, it's commonplace in, Bourbon Street, Louisiana, in New Orleans or Thailand or someplace like that. What? It's in schools now. Like, we dropped the ball.
It was an easy answer to that. Get your kids out of school.
Yeah.
Every show I say that. Every single show I say that. Get your kids out of public school. That's what I tell every single show, at least twice. But anyway.
I'm really backtracking here, but just a little tidbit of information. My dad was kind of
he was a pioneer.
He was a pioneer of homeschooling in North Dakota, and you can look into that, Leon. But he got himself in just a little bit of trouble, not really anything for the record, but he had the sheriff show up on his door one day after he pulled my oldest two siblings out. They came home and told him things that he didn't like, and it had to do with sex education, of course. And he grabbed them and he brought him home.
Actually, they homeschooled him when it was illegal.
Yeah.
And we talked about that APB earlier, and Scott was going through that at the time. So if he had felt the government was after him, they would. That's probably what he felt they were after him for.
Yeah.
But then to turn around and say that they're coming after him because he's armed and dangerous.
But
Oof.
But regardless, getting back off track here, I just wanted to add that with the homeschooling, he kind of the ability to homeschool now in North Dakota can be credited to some of the things he did. So he was trying to fight for families and to do the right thing. He was there at these meetings to help farmers keep their farms. Those guys weren't there talking about how they were going to overthrow the government. They were there to help each other. How to live a better life, how to improve the country, how to get back to its origins. Yeah. That's my thoughts.
I'm going to clip that, and that's going everywhere. I'm going to clip just that, and it's going everywhere because I don't think that folks understand. I think when they hear Gordon Kahl, it's taboo to talk about, horrible guy, shooting folks, slapping puppies, the whole thing. And that's not the case. It's not the case. And we should be wiser than that.
Right.
In my humble opinion.
Yeah. Look up penny sales. They went to auctions and they bid penny sales on their friends' farms. And so their friends could keep their farms. So these men stood up.
I'm definitely doing a dive into that. I will definitely have some content on that shortly.
Yep. Thank you, Leon.
So I want to thank you guys for coming on. It can't be easy. Again, you got Drew Wrigley out here saying one thing, and then you guys are just like, hey,
Right.
So it can't be easy.
That's just it.
I wish some folks in our media would have just an inkling of journalistic integrity and sit down and give you guys just a couple of minutes. Because I don't see that. Everything I see is sniping, pot shots, slandering, just the whole thing. I mean, they want to put people in jail for misgendering. Like, my God, what they're doing to you guys is just crazy.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm going to close with this. Thanks thank you for all the guys that tune in, all the comments that I didn't get to. I don't think I got to any of the comments, but I want to leave you guys with this. And especially our elected leaders. I'm cautioning our elected leaders to stop ignoring us. Stop ignoring the voices of your constituents in favor of the cloaked and moneyed voices of big interest and big government. And I'm talking about the kratom. I'm talking about all of the things, all of it. The doctrine of the lesser magistrate demands that you stand as a buttress between the overwhelming force of government and the citizen, protecting the people from overreach from the state, not the other way around. So instead of always siding with the Leviathan, maybe just listen to the people who put you in office once in a while. A simple rule of thumb: take an interest in your constituents before they take an interest in you. Because the last time that happened on a large scale, 3% of the population rose up and delivered a free country for the other 97%. Blackbeard Logic, Guns in the 701 Network. God bless. Good night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.